game away.
everywhere we go, and putting our best foot forward preparation wise everywhere we go. But we don't expect anything but they're a talented football team. We don't expect
Home this season. That's about to change for their next six on the road beginning Saturday at Miami. Dabo Sweeney ready for that challenge.
this is a really talented football team. We don't expect anything but
Ready for that challenge.
this is a really talented football team.
Challenge.
This is a really talented football team. We don't expect anything but their best effort. We're going to get everybody's A game. I think our guys know that everywhere we go. We're not going to get anybody's B game or C game. We're going to get the best they got, and that's the best they got, and that's
Tigers have only had to play one game away from home this season. That's about to change for their next six on the road beginning Saturday. Ready for that challenge.
this is a really talented football team. We don't expect anything. And this is a really talented football team. This is a really talented football team. We don't expect anything but we're going to get everybody to football team. We don't expect anything but their best effort. We're going to get everybody's A game. I think our guys know that. I think I think our I think our guys game. I think our guys need A game. I think our guys know that everywhere we go. We're not going to get anybody's B game or C game. We're going to get the best they got or C game. This is a really
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
This is a really talented football team. We don't expect anything but their best effort. We're going to get everybody's A game. I think our guys know that. Everywhere we go, we're not going to get anybody's B game or C game.
We struggled in the red zone, which we've got to get better. We've got to get better as coaches. We've got to get better as players. We've got to be able to punch the ball in. We've got to be able to line up and run it over. We understand the work that we have to go out there and try to achieve in our open week. I think our team is up for it, and I think they're really excited.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome back into Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network on a very lovely Monday evening. Phil Kornbluth coming to you from points unknown, not downtown Columbia with the other guys, but locked in nonetheless. Kevin McCrary, Professor Tom Hayes, the state man Graham Pope, back at the studios in downtown Columbia. It's a Monday after a truly crazy weekend. So let's hear what you have to say. 800-956-7266 is the phone number. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com. And on Twitter @sportstalksc is how you can reach us. So what a weekend in football. The Sean Elliott era, as long as it lasts, underway at South Carolina on a successful note. Clemson remains undefeated with its win over Boston College, yet somehow did not impress the pollsters over the weekend, at least in the AP, and they slide back a notch. But that's not the one that matters. It's the one that's coming up here soon from the committee that will matter the most. But there's some teams ahead of Clemson in the other polls that the Tigers have to be concerned about moving forward. But if they take care of their business, then they should be in good shape, and they certainly look like a team that can take care of its business. I was up at Clemson Saturday, K-Mac and the Pro were over at USC on Saturday. So let's start there, K-Mac, and your thoughts on a much different Gamecock team?
Well, it's the same team. I mean, Sean Elliott took over right at a week ago now, a little under a week, really, since Steve Spurrier officially announced his resignation and Elliott took over. So they still have a lot of the same issues, red zone issues, a defense that for whatever reason decides that it's not important to really guard the middle of the field and the underneath passes, but they found a way to win, so that's important. There were things that you could see in terms of differences with Sean Elliott. They wore all black uniforms. They played Back in Black by AC/DC on the PA and blared that very loud when they came out. He's trying to put different stamps. They were trying to play with more energy. They got a couple of personal foul penalties, and Sean Elliott told them before the game that he would even let a few of those slide if it was trying to be energetic. So he's trying to put his stamp on there as much as he can, Corn, and certainly he was hyped up, no doubt about it. I mean, after the game, he could barely talk. He was so jacked up after that game. So it's a definite different era for sure than Steve Spurrier.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, since it was Sean's first time, we'll bring you a little bit of his post-game comments from Saturday. Also, Clemson quarterback Deshaun Watson, but mainly your thoughts on everything coming up in a moment. What a Saturday in college football it was. I don't know that anything can top the Michigan State game for absolute bizarreness. But there were other great moments in college football all across the Southeast and all across the country. One thing that we know for sure, Les Miles ain't scared to do it anytime, any place when he feels like he's got to pull something out of his hat to win a ball game. And something else is looks like Alabama's back to being pretty good again. So a little wake-up call they had against Ole Miss has certainly done them some good. And Ole Miss is all of a sudden kind of gone a little south here.
Swag. Not enough swag.
Of late.
Alabama's best offense is when their defense is on the field. I mean, three interceptions. Memphis, I call that win. I just knew. I said, well, you know, Fuente probably wants to send in his resume to Columbia, so he sent it via the victory over Ole Miss. They've got a good team, there's no doubt, that Memphis team. And I just thought Ole Miss was walking into a booby trap, walking, you know, right up the road to Memphis, and you knew they were going to get ambushed, even after they took a 14-0 lead.
Well, he's an old quarterback. He's an old offensive coordinator. He's got a very good quarterback and some talent around him. One of his talented players is none other than Jelon Oglesby out of Daniel High School, who wanted to go to Clemson, couldn't get in. Now he is one of their valuable weapons. So, yeah, Memphis, highest ranking ever for them. And speaking of Justin Fuente, on our website, sportstalksc.com, a couple of things to keep you in tune with what's happening with the Gamecock search. Number one, we have started a ongoing chart to follow developments called Who's Hot and Who's Not, related to potential Gamecock candidates for the head coaching job. You can check that out on our website, sportstalksc.com, and kind of follow our opinions as to which candidates who are being talked about, written about, rumored about are actually hot candidates, for example. And you can agree or disagree with us, and we'll read your comments. Of the candidates we've put on the list thus far, and we'll add some more later today. We've got Sean Elliott and Kirby Smart and Fuente in the hot category, Brent Venables in the medium category, and Rich Bisaccia in the cold category. Now, that's neither a beginning nor an end. Things can change day to day, hour to hour, as things come out about various candidates, and we'll be adjusting and adding and subtracting as we move along. But check that out on a regular basis and add your comments as well. We may even take your comments to heart and use that in adjusting our opinions. Secondly, on our website, the poll question this week: who should rate 10 or higher at USC? Sean Elliott, Kirby Smart, Justin Fuente, Tom Herman, Chad Morris, Rich Bisaccia, Brent Venables, Will Muschamp, Charlie Strong, John McKissick. Those are your candidates.
John McKissick.
You can also, why not? You can also enter your own. You can enter your own candidates as well. Thus far, we've had a lot of responses. Thus far, it is Fuente with 37% of the vote, and Tom Herman with 12%. I might go back in there and add Danny Ford's name to that list. One more chance to get Danny Ford coaching at South Carolina. What do you think?
Well, it looks like everybody's finding guys with some sort of Clemson connection. You've got Brent Venables, Chad Morris. You might as well add Danny Ford. I heard somebody mention Jeff Scott and Tony Elliott. Just take somebody. Why not go after Dabo Swinney? Really, just go for Brooke. Just see if you can scoop him up, buy him out, and bring him to Columbia.
Didn't Ellis Johnson ask you to put him on the list? You didn't put him on there.
It is kind of funny, guys. You know, we talk about Dabo Swinney and what he's done at Clemson, and Gamecock fans have loved to criticize Dabo Swinney for his emotion and his post game antics, but Sean Elliott, I think, was channeling some Dabo Swinney there. Maybe a Dabo Swinney kind of a juiced up Dabo Swinney, so to speak. But Sean Elliott is a very emotional guy. And he was this way as an assistant coach. That viral video of him bouncing off players before the game, he does that every game with his offensive linemen. That's what he does. But after the game, his post-game speech, which was published by the Gamecock official Twitter feed. And then even in his post-game news conference, he was doused by Gatorade, all things that I'm sure made Steve Spurrier cringe. Remember, Steve Spurrier was a guy that said, don't ever douse me with Gatorade until we win a championship or a bowl game. Don't do it after just an upset win. It's much different. And I went back and looked, Corn, at the USC official football Twitter feed, and I've noticed they're starting to put up a lot more videos and inside the locker room stuff. And all of that just started. I went back a few weeks to when Spurrier was still coaching, and it was much different, a much different feed. And I know Sean Elliott is really pushing. He was tweeting before the game, tweeting after the game. Him, not somebody tweeting for him. He was actually tweeting. And the Gamecock official Twitter feed becoming more involved. And I don't think there's any doubt that Sean Elliott is saying, look, we've got to try to get with the 21st century here, and try to do some things differently. And that's a big part of it right there.
You know, the funny thing about it is I was reading a quote, I think, from Tom Herman, that's his name, the coach of Houston. And he said, I told our guys we need to tweet because it seems to me every teenager I see on the street, they got one of those things in their hands. So that's the best way to reach them because they're looking down at the thing 24 hours a day.
I think Sean is trying to bring some youthfulness and some freshness to the program that maybe had grown a little stale because of Spurrier and his, being 70 and doing things his way. One thing I saw on the feed as well, K-Mac, was a shot from behind the players coming out of the tunnel to 2001. That was pretty cool. Never seen that before. So, yeah, a definite fingerprints of Sean Elliott on the whole presentation, and I think we're going to see more of that moving forward. A couple of quick notes. The game time for USC Texas A&M on the 31st has been set. It will be high noon or 11 o'clock local time at Texas A&M, but high noon in the East on the SEC network or on ESPN. They haven't decided yet which network. Georgia, Florida, of course, on CBS at 3:30 that day. Tennessee, Kentucky, SEC network at 7:30. The same day in the ACC, Clemson at NC State will be a 3:30 kick on ABC, ESPN, or ESPN2. Also, ACC Players of the Week, Deshaun Watson is the offensive back of the week, 420 yards, 3 touchdowns, though he did have 2 picks that led to 10 of BC's points. And Jay Guillermo of Clemson, the offensive lineman of the week, he graded 88% on 78 plays in the win over Boston College. Okay, want to get your thoughts on, of course, what's happening at South Carolina, what's going on with Clemson and the run towards the playoffs. Will they make it? And will Sean Elliott be able to do enough to make himself the guy to beat for the South Carolina job? I mean, let's face it. He is the only one who can actively do something with the program with his own hands and his own vision to show Ray Tanner right in front of him, I can do this. This is why you should hire me. Everybody else is working from afar. Sean Elliott is working right under his nose. He's the only one that can do that. Can he do enough to impress? 800-956-7266 is our phone number. And let's go ahead and jump to Scott in Orlando. First call of the night of the week here on Sports Talk. Scott, how are you? Welcome in.
Well, I called you guys last Monday night at 7:50 p.m., and my question was, do you think this is Spurrier's last year? And 2 of you said no, and 1 of you said yes. So I gave you a chance to break the news last week. I know it's a little early, but so my question today is, I want each one of you to go ahead and pick who the next coach at South Carolina is going to be.
No, let me say this. Yes, I think this will be Spurrier's last year.
Yeah. I was the one. Let the record show. Everybody made fun of me. Said I was I was called a shock jock a week ago Monday, 2 weeks ago Monday when I said it. Look what happened.
All right, I'll tell you what, that's a good question, and we will attack that after the break and take more of your phone calls. And we're back on Sports Talk, presented by South Carolina soybean farmers and their checkoff. Learn more at scsoybeans.org. Pork powered by soy. All right, my answer to the question, as of today, I'll go with Sean Elliott because I think he's going to do a good job. I think that Ray Tanner, he promoted from within when he made Chad Holbrook the head baseball coach. I think he does like to look within and see what kind of talent he has working under his nose. I think he obviously sees some things in Sean Elliott that he would not have made him the interim head coach if he didn't think he could handle that for half a season. So today, right now, my opinion may change tomorrow. They get blown out by Texas A&M and look totally discombobulated, and I might change my opinion. But it's just like our story on the front page, hot, medium, cold. I think he's hot right now for the head coaching job.
Well, see, my criteria, I have to understand who are they looking at from afar and how they're judging him versus Sean Elliott. So let's face it, let's call it what it is, versus a Sean Elliott who's being handed a stacked deck. Because if you look at that schedule, you got to win 2 or 3 of those. It may be impossible. I mean, so are you going to judge him on the way his team plays, not the scoreboard, or how are you going to judge him? That's the key if he has any opportunity. If not, then they're going to hire from elsewhere.
Yeah, because there's a reason why Steve Spurrier bounced. Who's your pick, bro?
I would say today it would be the coach of Memphis, Fuente.
Yeah, to me, we're just throwing out names right now, and
exactly. That's all
anybody sitting on the couch, we can all throw out the obvious names, and everybody's seen those obvious names. And I think Sean Elliott is coaching for a job. I don't know that it's a South Carolina job. I think it's going to be very, very difficult for him to get that because of what he's inherited from a talent standpoint, but he does have a chance to make an impression on somebody, whether that's to be retained on the staff or get a head coaching job at a place like Georgia State or elsewhere. Certainly he can do that. And Sean Elliott is a good dude and a good recruiter. And I think he did a great job with that team, given the circumstances. And you could see changes. The offense played the best game of the season for them offensively without Steve Spurrier on the sideline. It was crazy, Pro. We were watching them get plays off with 15 seconds left on the play clock because they didn't have 4 different guys, I guess, calling in plays. They're getting the plays. They're doing tempo. They're trying to speed things up, call the play, run the play.
So who is your pick today?
I can throw any name out there. It's not even it's a cop out to throw one. All right, Bill Belichick is going to be the guy. I think
come on, K-Man. Be serious. Now the guy asked a question.
I gave him an answer. I think it's ridiculous for people to throw out names that they have no idea. I threw out a name, Bill Belichick. He'll listen. Ray Tanner needs to make that call. Call Bill Belichick. Go big. Bill Belichick.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
800-956-7266. Back in a moment. back. Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. 800-956-7266. Phil Kornluke, the man who take the stand. K-Mac, Mr. Fence Sitter, and Professor Tom Hayes, who will also take a stand. 800-956-7266. Phone number. Email talkback at sportstalksc.com. On Twitter at sportstalksc. The website. Thank you so much for smoking it over the weekend. Whatever you were smoking the website too. And that is sportstalksc.com. And on Facebook, Sports Talk Radio Network. We get back to your phone calls. We welcome Jim in Charlotte. Next up on Sports Talk. Good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm fine. How are y'all today? I just want to say I was glad to see that the old ball coach got a chance to go to that Michigan State game and get a chance to see firsthand of exactly what could happen if the players did not quit. And also
there was no quit in Michigan State.
Didn't quite land.
Yeah, and also one thing, y'all throwing around some Clemson names, ex-Clemson players. Tommy West, what has happened to him? Is he still coaching? I know he went to Memphis, and he did a good job at Memphis there for a while.
I believe Tommy, and I have to double-check this, I want to say he's at Middle Tennessee State with Rick Stockstill. I'm not 100% sure. I have to look that up, but I think that is.
I think you are right.
He is.
All right. Oh, and one other thing is, all these coaches thinking about coming to Carolina, don't they know that is a place where coaches come to die? Coaching careers come to die. And I'll let y'all
Yeah. When you think about it, Spurrier's ended at South Carolina. Holtz's ended at South Carolina. Brad Scott's head coaching career ended at South Carolina. Sparky Woods did not. I think Sparky is about the lone exception because he was the head coach at VMI. Jim Carlin's coaching career, college-wise, ended at South Carolina.
Yeah, Holtz and Spurrier, though, those guys, they were at the end of their careers. Mm-hmm. Now, earlier, it's like Brad Scott. He never was a head coach again. Some of these guys, Sparky Wood, they were younger and were fired. But say what you want. This South Carolina job and program is not the same as it was 20 years ago. It's not in the same place
it wasn't the same
as
way
it
10
was
years ago.
Yeah, it's a different job than it was when Sparky Woods was there and when Brad Scott was there and when Lou Holtz first took it over. And it's a different job than it was when Steve Spurrier first took it over. So that being said, those kind of things don't really matter as much. Now they're going to be able to go out and lure in candidates that maybe they wouldn't have been able to before. They still have to hire the right guy, and that's not easy. Ask Tennessee how easy it is to hire the right guy, or Florida. Look how many times those two great programs had a swing and a miss. Even Alabama has had a swing and a miss. Remember Mike Price? Remember Mike Shula? I mean, goodness gracious, those guys were awful for different reasons. They had Mike DeBose. So it's not a slam dunk anywhere. So Ray Tanner has his work cut out for him, which is why I'm not trying to ride the fence. To me, I could name an ideal candidate, the things that I would be looking for, but I have no idea who South Carolina is going to hire next. Yeah, Fuentes he looks like a good hire. Herman at Houston looks like a good hire. But you know what? A few years ago, maybe several years ago now, Turner Gill at Buffalo was the hot name. Everybody wanted Turner Gill. He took
the wrong job.
He goes to Kansas, and now I think Turner Gill's at Liberty. It's not an exact science by any stretch of the imagination.
You said something interesting when you talked about Sean Elliott being from Camden and what he's working for. See, I can see a guy coming from another region of the country, but retaining somebody on that staff that knows South Carolina, that knows the territory, and it may happen that way. You never know.
I think that is a big plus for him with Sean Elliott, is the fact that he is a local guy. He knows the state. He knows the program, the ins and outs of it. He wants the job. It's not a stepping stone job for him. It is a dream job for him. And he looked like a guy that had lived his dream, that had just hit the lottery, coaching South Carolina and leading them to a victory there. And he'll always have that moment. It was cool to see that. I don't think he's going to end up getting that tag interim taken off of his title, but I think it's impressive what he did.
But I will say
this. 800-956-7266, the phone number. Let's get back to our phone calls. Ronnie in North Augusta, you're up next. Welcome into Sports Talk.
Hey, Phil, how you guys doing tonight?
Doing good.
We are
Go ahead. Before I make my comment on the coach, and then I want to ask you something about Clemson, but I wanted to give y'all a compliment, too. I mean, you don't know, this is the best 2 hours every day for me because it helps me get my mind off of things I don't need to be thinking about, and I really do enjoy the show every night. And I'm sure there's a lot of other people, but during this 2 hours, you can kind of let everything else go for a while. So I just want you to know I've always enjoyed listening to it, but now it means even more to have this to listen to at night. But as far as the coaching situation, do you know if Mooney Player is still alive or not? You know, Mooney was going to take it for free.
He's still out there kicking. He's still out there kicking somewhere, I believe.
Mooney was going to take it for free, and if he didn't win 8 or 9 games, they didn't have to pay him. Maybe we should have done that. We'd probably be coming off of probation this year. We'd had some championships to go with it.
Well, listen, let's, and I know what you're saying there. Spurrier had some great years at South Carolina. It's not like his run was a disastrous run by any means. They've got to bring in somebody to dig him out of a deep hole. Obviously I don't have to sit here and state the facts about what Spurrier accomplished in South Carolina. He had the greatest run in the history of the program. The next guy has got to come in and change some things, like we've seen with Sean Elliott here early on. I'm sure whoever the next head coach is going to do things like that, more social media activity, more visibility, things of that nature for the program, which is what you have to do in today's college football environment. So it was just obviously something that, as an older coach, Spurrier was not into. He wasn't into the real rah-rah, especially at the end. Now let's remember, guys, when they were winning and football was fun for him, Spurrier, he did a lot of things publicly, and he was very much out in front of the program and very outspoken and quotable. But I think especially this year, and we noticed it kind of early, there was a certain detachment from things with Spurrier this year, and you might have picked up on that, and maybe that led to your call that he would retire at the end of the season. I sensed a certain amount of detachment as well. I just didn't think that Spurrier, being the way he is, that he would walk away from a losing situation, that he would go out a winner in some form of fashion.
He always said he would. I mean, he always said he would leave if it got bad. He would let somebody else in there. He's a guy that was almost phobic about getting fired, didn't want to get fired for whatever reason. I think Mr. Henry on the show made a good point that maybe there was something to it there with some kind of thing watching his dad get fired. He always, even with that interview with Josh Kendall, said, well, it's interesting. He mentioned Edsel at Maryland got fired and he was 2-4. And he's like, I easily could have been fired. Let's just say I fired myself so somebody else didn't have to. And if you're South Carolina and you could go back in time, back to the future style, and say, okay, we're going to hire Steve Spurrier, but in 10.5 years, he's going to leave. Is your winningest coach, but he's going to quit in the middle of the season and you're going to be struggling. They would have said, let's see. Yeah, we'll take it. 3 straight 11-win seasons, 5 straight wins over our arch rival, beat Georgia 4 out of 5 in a stretch, beat Florida. Okay, yes, we will take that, please. So there is no shame in the game there. And to me, I still will say this. I'll go down saying it. You can criticize Spurrier for letting the program get to this position, and we outlined pretty clearly what happened and the mistakes that he made. That's fair game. But this whole, he quit, he's a quitter, he did the best possible thing for his program. If a CEO of a company has ran it into the ground and it's floundering, you don't say, I'm going to stay till the end of the fiscal. I'm going to get out of the way so somebody can get in here and fix it. That's what you do. So he did the right thing.
All right. Hit a break. We'll be back. 800-956-7266. 800-956-7266. That's our phone number. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com and on Twitter @SportsTalkSC. Whether you are a Carolina Gamecock or you bleed Clemson Orange, all South Carolina college football fans can agree on Founders Federal Credit Union with a convenient location on USC's campus and a Clemson office coming soon. Founders is a sure fan favorite. Visit RelaxJoinFounders.com to see if you qualify for membership. And on Thursday, a luncheon in Columbia to officially announce the new name for the USC baseball stadium, Carolina Stadium. It becomes Founders Park, which I think is a pretty neat name. I like the inclusion of the word park when it comes to a baseball facility. So Founders Park, new name for Carolina Stadium. There'll be a luncheon on Thursday for all those involved to discuss that. Some email into us here at talkback@sportstalksc.com. And let's see here. This is, of course, related to the coaching search at South Carolina. This is from Jimmy, who writes, I realize that Elliott does not have name recognition as Kirby Smart and Brent Venables, nor have the Gamecocks had the success as Alabama and Clemson in 2014 and so far this year. But they are unproven as head coaches. I feel that Coach Elliott should get the nod if Ray Tanner doesn't go after a proven head coach. It's from Jimmy. And let's see, this is from the S. All good mentions talking about the coaches we've mentioned on our website. I don't see Elliott as a red-hot candidate. I do like his intensity, and the players would run through a brick wall for him. He added some new wrinkles to the offense this week. But when the going gets tough and it's about to, the players will start thinking twice about running into that brick wall. I agree completely with the others on the list. What about Chad Morris? Fuente and Smart will be courted by everyone with an HC opening. Maybe we'll be the right fit for one of them, but the odds are against it, especially Smart. He would be the dream hire because he could hold our recruits and possibly wrap up a few really good ones late. Our defense needs to be blown up and rebuilt. We probably only have 3 players of upper SEC talent on the unit. I have a feeling several will be encouraged to transfer out. And how about Mike Shula? Is there a reason his name has not been mentioned by any of the talking heads? He has an SEC pedigree. He's a sexy hire for recruiting because of his OC history. He's 50. He has 15 good years left in him. Surround him with some good SEC recruiting coaches, and he could do well here.
Had a chance at Bama.
But it's all talk right now.
Yeah, you can't win it. I mean, I would hire, if you're going to get a Bama flame out or a current Bama guy, I'd go Lane Kiffin before I would go Mike Shula, and that's crazy enough right there.
All right, 800-956-7266, our phone number here on Sports Talk. We go next to Frank in Lexington. Hi, Frank. Good evening and welcome to Sports Talk.
How y'all doing, fellas?
We're good, sir. Good to have you with us.
My point, just a couple observations, is that whoever does get the job, to me, is not coming in with an empty cupboard. They've got some real good players down there to build from. If he can just add maybe 2 or 3 impact players, Carolina could be right back where they were at.
Well, I think they need more than 2 or 3 players, Corn. I mean, no, with no disrespect to some of the guys out there, I think they're playing hard, but they don't have the players that they had. They're nowhere close to the level of talent that they had.
I
3 years ago.
I will say this: if he hadn't gotten off the tracks, you could have seen Shaq Rowland on the other side of the field at the other wideout. But for whatever reason, he just could not connect, get with the program, and he's gone. But that's one that really, you'd be surprised how different that offense would have looked if he'd have stayed the course. But it didn't happen.
Well, I think it's midseason now. Maybe you're starting to see some of the young guys grow up. For example, Neal had a pretty good game Saturday, I think, catching the ball against Vanderbilt. Lamont's had an interception on the defensive side. I think their defense as a whole, played better against Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt not a bad offensive team with a quarterback that can throw it all over the park. So maybe it's a maturation process starting to kick in a little bit with some of these younger guys, and you'll see their talents come to the top here. Back in a moment. Back to your phone calls here shortly on Sports Talk. Let's hit the recruiting report for tonight. Linebacker Trey Lamar from Roswell, Georgia, has been a solid Clemson commitment since mid-July, but Auburn is staying hot on his tail and working him very hard. He talks a lot to Will Muschamp. They're telling him they need him at linebacker. They have room for him to step in and play right away at linebacker. Brent Venables continues to recruit him hard for South Carolina. for Clemson as well. He's been studying the Clemson linebacker chart for next season too, and he believes it's comparable to what Auburn has to show him, though he said maybe Auburn might be a little better, but to his eyes it's pretty even. He said Auburn's the only other school recruiting him hard at this point besides Clemson. A Florida recruiter was to be by his school today. He's been to Clemson games this season. He was there for Wofford, Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, and he does not think he'll take an official visit to Auburn, and right now has no plans to go to an Auburn game. He is on track to graduate early. He did sign his financial aid papers with Clemson, and as I mentioned, Brent Venables is staying in touch. Richland Northeast Shrine Bowl linebacker T.J. Brunson was at USC again on Saturday. Got there late because of traffic, left at halftime. He was there with Brian Edwards and C.J. Freeman, hanging out with them, and he met with Lorenzo Ward, who told him that they'd love to have him in the class, and with Edwards and Freeman, it would help the Gamecocks have a good 2016 class. Still committed to Louisville. Might take an unofficial visit there this coming weekend. Has not yet scheduled any official visits. Firmly committed to Louisville, but still wants to see what else comes in following the season. He did say Louisville hasn't been as active recruiting him lately as USC has, but he said the Cardinals have told him they don't do much with their prospects prospects during the season. They do it after the season. 2017 tight end Logan Rudolph of Northwestern went to Michigan Saturday. 2016 defensive end Wale Okundeyi of Asheville was at Clemson Saturday. 2016 linebacker Clevin Pryor of Baltimore was at USC on Saturday. Clemson offered 2017 offensive lineman Matt Bockhorst of Cincinnati. USC target, Florida commitment, linebacker Vashawn Joseph of Miami has set officials with West Virginia and Syracuse. Greer receiver Dorian Lindsay committed to Wofford. Clemson 2017 quarterback target Chase Bryce was at Florida State Saturday. South Point defensive back Nick McLeod was at North Carolina. He also picked up an offer from Vanderbilt. Basketball, 6'6", 2017 small forward Marquise Godwin, Hampton, Virginia, will visit Clemson November 7th. 2018 point guard Trey Dooms of Ackworth, Georgia, was at Clemson Saturday. And in baseball, Swansea sophomore left-hander Josiah Seitler made a commitment to USC. And Greenville high school infielder and also quarterback Carson Spires, 2016 class, made a commitment to Clemson. More of your phone calls coming up. We'll be back.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Okay, it's hour number 2, Sports Talk Monday night from Columbia, 800-956-7266. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com, on Twitter @sportstalksc. If for some reason you haven't signed up to be part of our Twitter community, make sure you do so you can follow in on everything we tweet. You can follow recruiting as well, #STRecruiting on Twitter. You can keep up with Mr. Snarky himself, K-Mac, on Twitter. Good reason to be part of our Twitter community at Sports Talk, at Sports Talk SC. 800-956-7266, the number. We go back to your phone calls. Joe, Florence, welcome in to Sports Talk tonight. How are you?
Hello, Phil. How are you guys doing?
Good, sir.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. We hear you loud and clear.
All right. Question for you. I hear the comments, South Carolina is a place where coaches go to die their careers. And so I pulled up a list of Clemson coaches, and I'm just wondering, if I look beginning back at the 70s, Hootie Ingram, Red Parker, Tommy Bowden later on, did those guys coach anywhere after they were at Clemson?
Red Parker did. Hootie did not, I don't think.
He started the Blowfish.
Tommy Bowden has not. Tommy West did.
Tommy Bowden has
Ken
not.
Hatfield
Tommy
did.
West did. Ken Hatfield
Tommy
did,
West
yeah.
did, but
Danny
he
Ford
bombed out
did.
at Memphis, I think, yeah.
Well, but he got a job.
Just,
Danny Ford, of course, did. So, yeah, it's it hasn't been exactly the dead end that South Carolina's been for a lot of people.
Well, but you got to look at the ages, too. I know we had some terrible coaches at South Carolina. I understand that. Sparky Woods tried, but the thing is, both Holtz and Spurrier were well at the end of their careers when they left here. And, I realize some people say it doesn't matter, but I'm trying to think of a guy who really had a career ahead of him and got killed by being at South Carolina.
Well, Sparky Woods and Brad Scott.
Yeah.
Brad Scott came in as a offensive coordinator, quote unquote. We all know Bobby Bowden ran the offensive show at Florida State, but he was still the offensive coordinator, the lead recruiter, coming off a national championship year. Hopes were very high, came in and, things started off nicely. He won a bowl game, USC's first ever bowl win. But Brad got away from what made Brad Scott a successful assistant coach. He got away from the swashbuckling, chance-taking, offensive, creative type of person that he supposedly was, and he went in another direction. He had trouble with coaches and getting a staff together and holding it together solidly. So, that's kind of how it got away from him. But, that would be one who came in with high hopes that didn't pan out. Insects and diseases can be moved hundreds of miles in firewood, threaten our forests, favorite campsites, neighborhoods, state and national parks. Help protect the trees you love by purchasing firewood at or near where you burn it. For more information, visit don'tmovefirewood.org. All right, back to your calls in a minute. I want to touch on Clemson for a moment from Saturday night. Was up there at Valley, another big house, full house, a beautiful night, great setting for a football game. And, Tigers struggled early at Boston College defense. We talked about it going in, how good they were statistically. And early on, they proved to be just that. They were hitting Deshaun Watson quite a bit. He was hit more in that game, I think, than maybe any game he's played in his career. Just in terms of, I'm not talking about when he took off on runs. I'm talking about when he would stay in the pocket and release the football, and there would be somebody in his grill, and they would hammer him. He got hit quite a bit. He had 2 interceptions. Of course, that was offset by 420 yards and 3 touchdowns. But he does have 7 picks on the year. If you're looking for something to criticize and something for him to work on, he has put the ball in jeopardy more this year as the full-time quarterback. Of course, he only had 2 picks last year. But still, he put the ball in the second half. He got off to a shaky start. I think he was not very comfortable in the first half for whatever reason. He was overthrowing guys. He might have been a little overhyped. But in the second half, he settled in. He threw some beautiful balls. Now, Clemson didn't have much of a running game going for it on Saturday night against that tough Boston College defense. So they didn't have the complete offense going. But where they came up short in the running game, of course, they made up for it big in the passing game. And Artavis Scott was terrific with 10 catches, and Deion Kane made a beautiful catch and run. And then defensively, I mean, the thing about Clemson's defense is there's seldom any open space on the field. You think you've got room to run, and somebody's either there waiting for you or closing on you quickly because of their speed. I think that's one reason it makes them so good defensively. They're either put in the right spots all the time by Venables and the staff, or they make up for being in the wrong position with outstanding closing speed. And, Boston College never really, their passing game had no chance at all. They did run the ball a little bit effectively against Clemson, especially a few times they were able to seam them up the middle and get into the second level. But their passing game had no chance, 7 of 22 for the freshman quarterback for 87 yards. So good overall performance by Clemson, taking care of business, doing what they have to do. Now they go down to play a Miami team, which is probably the game for Al Golden down there. He does not – I don't know. Does he have a true marquee victory on his resume at Miami? I'd have to go back and look. I can't recall off the top of my head a win over Florida State or a win over Florida. This would be a chance for him to calm the waters there. I'm not even sure that a win over Clemson would do it. But Miami has a very good secondary. Now, they did lose their leading tackler, Kirby, to a knee injury for the rest of the season, so they'll be hurt there. But, Miami is going to play this like it's their championship game, and for all intents and purposes, it is. So Clemson needs to be emotionally and physically ready to play what should be a pretty nasty and snarling Miami team in what won't be a particularly hostile environment, I don't believe. There may be more Clemson fans there than Miami fans when the day is done. I'll be down in Miami for that. Looking forward to watching the Tigers and the Hurricanes go at it on Saturday. 800-956-7266 is the phone number. Let's get back to our phone calls here on this Monday night. David Shelton will be joining us here shortly. Talk about the high school Friday night. It's Cockett in Columbia. Please make it short and painless, Cockett.
How you doing, Phil? How you doing, K-Mac?
We're doing fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. That's good. I'm glad to see the Panthers they're playing good ball right now. Cam Newton look like a world beater. I just wanted to throw this right out. Clemson ain't going undefeated. And I'm glad to see them Gators went down because everybody seemed to think that the Gators was going to do something. But other than that, I want to just, take my hat off to our coach, our assistant coach, who's trying to get this job at USC, which I doubted, but congratulate him. Beating Vandy. A win is a win, and hope that this week bye will at least give our team a chance to heal, and hope that we can maybe win one or two of them games on the road and take care of business at home. That's the only thing I have to say. And don't get your expectations up so high. I feel Corn Blue. The Packers ain't going nowhere. So I wanted to throw that out there to you.
Mm-hmm. You were doing well, Cockett, there until the end. Then you brought the migraine back.
Great pass defense yesterday.
6-0 is 6-0. That's all I got to say. Let's go back to our phone calls, 800-956-7266. Hank in Columbia, hello. Welcome to Sports Talk.
Hey, Phil. How's it going?
We're good, man. Hello? How are you?
Oh, doing all right. Hey, I wanted to kind of heard that caller that called in about the talent, and I listened to the coordinator session y'all have on each week, and heard Ellis on another show last week, and somebody asked Ellis about the talent on the team, and he said the team was full of SEC talent. He said the difference between the team is, and I don't think 2 or 4 callers said it's more like K-Mac said. He said the difference is, he said the teams that they had a couple of years ago had about 8 to 10 what you call difference makers. And he said that they lack some of the difference makers that that make up those special plays. But he called it kind of explosion type play. So he said the team has a lot of SEC talent that can play solid. He said it needs to get somebody needs to come in and be able to get a couple of difference makers on each side of the ball, and that would make this team a lot different. And it kind of referenced, remember the Tennessee game a couple of years ago where Tennessee was playing well, and then you have Clowney come up and make a play that kind of ends the game.
We made a fumble.
Yeah, he said so. He said it's the talent. He said it's SEC. He said he thought the talent was SEC talent on that team. He sees it all over the field. He said you just got to go out. The recruiters got to go out and get some of those special players. So I think that's what a new coach could come in, and you get a couple of playmakers on defense. A lot of that team is so young in terms of freshmen and sophomore. They're picking up experience, and they get the brains beat out, but they're picking up experience. I think a good coach could get you back to 7-8 wins, and that's a building point. I want to hear what y'all have to say about that.
Well, the key point is if you look at any team, psychological, whatever, you need playmakers. Georgia's offense can't be as bad as I saw them the other day, but for whatever reason, since Chubb has gotten injured, guys are freaking out for whatever reason. LSU's offense still would be potent, but you take Fournette off that team, and I'm not so sure LSU's offense would struggle for a while. So yeah, you do need those 1 or 2 difference makers that can make a play out of nothing, and South Carolina just does not have those except for one, and that's probably Pharaoh Cooper.
Fournette is a lifetime, once in a lifetime kind of player, but the backup for LSU is not bad either. I think his name is Geis. He rushed for 160 yards against the Gamecocks.
That's what they said about Georgia, but Georgia didn't move the football Saturday.
Well, Missouri has pretty good defense too. Now, let's don't take anything away from Missouri's defense. But going back to the premise that Hank was making there, and I mentioned this earlier in the show, I think South Carolina, and I think Ellis is exactly right too. I agree with him. They've got some players, some highly recruited players on their defensive side. But outside of Sky Moore, really, and of course T.J. Holloman's had a moment or two. But outside of Sky Moore, I mean, which player has consistently made a big play for them over the past couple of years? And that answer would be nobody. So he's right. When they were making their run, they had 2, 3, maybe 4 guys on defense you could count on to make a big play almost every game. Can't do that right now. More of your calls coming up, and we'll let you hear what Sean Elliott had to say after his first game as USC's head football coach. The win over Vanderbilt. Give you a little taste of what it was like for him after the win. Right now, it's time for our high school football report, a service of Farm Bureau Insurance. With new auto insurance rates from Farm Bureau, you could be saving a whole lot of money. Even if you received a quote before, rates are now more competitive than ever. Get a free quote today from your local Farm Bureau insurance agent. We welcome David Shelton, high school sports report, to Sports Talk. All right, so we had the big upset on Friday night, Boiling Springs taking down Spartanburg High School. I guess that's a great place to start in reviewing the big games from Friday night.
Yeah, that was the one that caught most people's attention, and you know, that's off to Boiling Springs. Had a great defensive plan, did a good job. Feaster got 157 yards, but Austin Scott probably had maybe his worst game as a high school starting quarterback, to be honest with you. Looking at his numbers, didn't reach. I don't think he reached 100-yard pass and had a couple of picks. But you know, Boiling Springs quarterback Mason Streeter threw for about 200 yards, and remember he's a transfer from Burns. He left Burns and went to Boiling Springs prior to this season. So you know, that's a big win for Boiling Springs. Though that was probably the one game that had everybody kind of putting on when the scores came out.
Yeah, and no doubt about it. I mean, it caught your attention, and because it just was so unexpected, and Spartanburg was coming off some big wins. They'd beaten Burns, they'd beaten Dorman, and, I mean, they looked practically unbeatable, but it's proven that they're not. Of the remaining unbeatens around the state, and let's just stick with 4A for right now, of the remaining unbeatens in 4A, who do you think might make it through the rest of the regular season unscathed?
I would say Fort Dorchester will not lose in the regular season. I would say West Side, you know, they've had some injuries and a couple suspensions and things like that. You know, they've got Greenwood on the schedule. I would say West Side's got a shot to finish undefeated in the regular season. And who's the other one? Who am I missing? Is that the only two left?
I'd have to check. I trust you.
Yeah, I believe that is the only two. Yeah, I believe that is the only two. So I definitely think Fort Dorchester will go undefeated in the regular season. You know, Ashley Ridge is going to be a very tough game for them at the end of the year. Ashley Ridge beat them last year. I just think Fort Dorchester is starting to put it all together. They're a pretty darn good football team.
Yes, they are. Anything else catch your eye from Friday night?
I think the other upset that sort of was a head scratcher was Saluda beating Strom Thurmond. In the 2A ranks, Strom Thurmond is one of the top, 4 or 5 teams generally considered. Had some big wins also. Maybe just took Saluda a little bit, a little bit lightly, and Saluda upset them.
Okay, David, thank you so much as always. You can read David's information on his website, High School Sports Report, hssr.com, but also in the Charleston Post and Courier. We're back in a moment. back, 800-956-7266. That's our number here on Sports Talk. Email talkback at sportstalksc.com. Want to remind you, of course, that insects and diseases, they can be moved hundreds of miles in firewood and threaten our forests, favorite campsites, neighborhoods, state and national parks. Help protect the trees you love by purchasing firewood at or near where you burn it. For more information, visit don'tmovefirewood.org. And we go back to your phone calls to Manning and Mark. Good evening. Welcome into Sports Talk.
Phil, hey, hope you guys are doing good tonight. I wanted to kind of reiterate what you said. I mean, we kind of got lost on Clemson here this evening. But, hey, the next 3 weeks could be history in this state watching Clemson. You got Miami. That game, I believe that Miami will be fighting for Al Golden's job. He's never beaten Florida State. He doesn't have a signature win. He's something like 0-6 against them. They're going to be fighting for that job. The coach's job yet. Then you have North Carolina State on Halloween night. And then if they get through that, then they got the Seminoles coming to town. And I'm telling you guys, the media, you guys are sleeping on Florida State. Everybody's talking about that kid down at LSU Fournette. Dalvin Cook is the real deal. And if Clemson win those 3 games, they're locked for the playoffs. I don't know if they can play for the national championship, but if they win those 3 games, you can pencil them in for a playoff spot. And I wanted to get you guys 3 opinions on something. What the heck is ESPN doing? I read an article where they're going to start showing and covering professional wrestling. What's the deal with that?
Well, let me address the first part because that interests me. I watched a good bit of that Florida State game, and, yeah, Cook was phenomenal. He had maybe one of the best runs in the country of the season in that game the other day. And Everett Golson hasn't thrown an interception. Florida State hasn't had a turnover all year. It's hard to believe that they have not had a turnover all season to this point. And especially when you have a quarterback who was hounded by that statistic last year. So he has really settled in. And the thing about Golson, if you watched that game the other day, he kept so many plays alive with his legs. Florida State's offensive line, when I was watching, was not having a particularly good day. And the pocket was closing in on Golson quickly. And he kept a lot of pass plays alive with his legs. He's going to be very dangerous when he gets to Death Valley in a couple of weeks. That's going to be one great football game. I hope everything stays just like it is right now, so that game has all the magnitude to it that it should have, and I think it will. I'll let K-Mac handle the wrestling question.
I had no idea about ESPN.
I have an idea about it. Years ago, when Turner's broadcasting empire was being built, they asked a question at a forum for the money put in, invested, and money made. What's the biggest money making property on in the Turner broadcast? This was about 20 years ago, and I said, "There's no doubt, it's Georgia Championship Wrestling." And the guy said, "Mr. Hayes, you are correct. You got to remember that isn't ESPN kind of cash desperate now and looking for any way they can get ratings, get money, and they have a guy on their staff, one of their anchors, Jonathan Coachman, who used to be a wrestling announcer and a wrestler. So what do you bet if they do go to championship wrestling that Jonathan Coachman doesn't host the show?"
Good point. All right, thanks for your phone call, 800-956-7266. It's time for our weekly Mr. Football Update presented to you by your South Carolina Electric Cooperatives. For everyday savings at your fingertips, download the Cooperative Connections app at ecsc.org/connections. And, of course, Mr. Football, we're down to 5. Tavian Feaster of Spartanburg, the running back, 734 yards and 6 touchdowns, 30 catches, 544 yards and 6 touchdowns. Borman quarterback Colin Hill, 2013 passing yards, 22 touchdowns. Chapin quarterback Logan Bailey going into Friday was at 1,382 yards passing and 14 touchdowns, 419 yards rushing and 16 touchdowns. Conway's Brian Edwards, receiver, going into Friday, 41 catches, 873 yards, and 8 touchdowns. And Fort Dorchester offensive lineman John Simpson, part of a team that is undefeated, 9-0, chance to win a state championship, averaging right around 40 points per game. There you go with the update on the Mr. Football candidates. Before we hit your phone calls once again, I want to get to a couple of pieces with Sean Elliott, since it's the first time as a head coach he's coached a win at South Carolina. So here is a little bit of his post-game press conference underneath Williams-Brice Stadium after the win over Vanderbilt on Saturday. Just a little bit of what he had to say, and you can hear the excitement and the emotion in his voice as he talks about that first win.
Guys, I just want to start out by saying that this was one heck of a team win. I mean, Monday night, we had no clue what was happening, to tell you the truth. Kind of hit us blindsided just like it did the rest of the country and our university, state. I told our guys in there that, you know, you had your backs against the wall. You had your backs against the wall all week. They never batted an eye. They never batted an eye. They kept fighting. They kept playing. They did everything we asked of them. Said out there a while ago, I said, it's just like this great state. You know, you have the tragedies here, you have the floods, and you see people rebuilding, helping one another, fighting, clawing to get back what they had, people helping. And that's exactly how we did it today. Exactly how we did it today. Thought our defense stepped up to the plate, played an exceptional ball game. Other than a personal foul, you know, some minor runs and some other things, but offensively we were a little inconsistent. I haven't even really looked at the stats right here. You know, it was like we take 2 steps forward and 1 step back on each series throughout the game, and we never could put those back-to-back plays together. I thought we were moving the football well. I thought we were pretty confident in what we were doing, and it was just one mishap after another. You know, you look up and you I don't even know the total yards here. What we got? We have 424 total yards and 19 points, and that doesn't correlate. I mean, it really doesn't. Not the way we should have been putting the points up. We struggled in the red zone, which we've got to get better. We've got to get better as coaches. We've got to get better as players. We've got to be able to punch the ball in. We've got to be able to line up and run it over them. That's what we've got to do. We understand the work that we have to go out there and try to achieve in our open week. I think our team is up for it, and I think they're really excited. It was a heck of a win.
But, you know, that's good. That's good stuff. It's coming from the heart. It's emotional. He's exhausted. Listen, you know, he becomes the head coach on Monday night actually technically Tuesday morning. I think Ray said it was 12:02 Tuesday morning when he told him, you're the guy. So, I mean, he probably got no sleep last week, running on adrenaline, so much to do, so much to prepare for, so little time to get it done. It's amazing. Same thing Dabo went through 7.5 years ago when he was thrown into the fire, and he lost his first game, remember, down at Georgia Tech. It wasn't until they went up to Boston College that he won his first game. And so Sean, at least, and of course Dabo had to play on the road that first game in it. I think it was, I don't remember where it was. But anyway, he lost to Georgia Tech that first game. I think it was at home, come to think of it. And Sean at least gets off on the right foot there. You know, just sitting here thinking about it, at least in the modern era, and I'm going back as far as I can remember, maybe back in the old days, this was the day, but I don't think USC's ever had a native South Carolinian as its head football coach.
1934. I saw a tweet. 1934 was the last time somebody with South Carolina ties coached the South Carolina Gamecock football team.
Maybe.
play clock. Hurry up to the line of scrimmage. Everybody gets set. Cam Newton takes. Fades back. Cam Newton throws a pass. Olsen end zone. Caught. Touchdown!
Yes! Yes! The double move down the center of the football field. Beats the cover two. Yes! Olsen gets behind the secondary. Yes!
Well, one of the unbeaten still in the NFL, besides the Green Bay Packers and Cincinnati Bengals, the Carolina Panthers. How about that win yesterday in Seattle? Mick Mixon. Did you guys even need a plane to get back to Charlotte, or just flap your wings?
We probably could have just flapped it on back. It was phenomenal, Corn. It was great to hear your voice. I appreciate you having me on. The locker room was a huge mosh pit, just jubilation. I'm surprised nobody got hurt. And then by the time we loaded the buses to go to the airport, everybody had calmed down. It was a big win. It was huge. So much at stake. Respect, validation, redemption, the whole bye week thing with Coach Rivera not having one as a head coach following a bye week, and how reporters will hop on things like that and try to ride them. And then the Panthers needing to kind of avenge a little bit of a negative history with Seattle. These two teams have played one another a lot. Seattle had the Panthers' number. They'd all been close games, but Seattle had won. So for a variety of ways, most notably the Panthers now being a national story as opposed to a local or a regional story, it was a great win.
Well, Mick, tell me this. I was about to ask you, were you surprised, as I was, that on the winning touchdown, Greg Olsen was allowed to get a free release from the line of scrimmage, or was the scheme to line him up a little further away from the center of the field for him to get that free release?
It looked like one of the safeties sat down on it, Pro. I don't really know why that safety let Olsen run right by. But it looked as though there was definitely miscommunication, and I say that primarily because of the Seattle reaction, their player reaction after the touchdown pass. They had a little bit of a mat on in the back end. Some of their guys did. So it didn't look like typical Seattle Legion of boom coverage, but the Panthers will take it. And Greg Olsen had a great game, but man, to me, Jonathan Stewart's one of the heroes with his 78 yards rushing, but they were muscular, robust yards, and the Panthers needed them to stay balanced.
Mick, this one, it kind of played out like a postseason game. And I know, were you involved with that early 5:30 fire alarm at the hotel and all the shenanigans there?
Oh, of course. Yeah, I was staying in room 1701, and I was right by the elevator. My room was right by the elevator, and I mean, it was the loudest thing in the world. The alarms going off, the voice telling you attention, attention. Telling you what to do, go down the stairs. And so we had to go down 17 flights of stairs to stand out in the cold rain. I'm sure I looked like a homeless. I'm surprised nobody tried to give me a couple bucks, because I had an overcoat that I took with me on the trip and a Panther hat, and I was just kind of standing there in the rain on a cold, dark Seattle Sunday morning.
Mick, on his press conference today, Rivera talked about feeling like they still have a lot to prove. They're undefeated, one of the few left standing in the NFL in that category. What's he referring to, the chip on the shoulder, us against the world mentality, when he says we do have a lot to prove still?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, Corn. You want to get respect, and you want to get the pundits' attention. You want to be a national story, but then when you get it, or when you're about to get it, maybe you don't want it after all. Maybe you'd rather underpromise and overproduce, like the Panthers have tried to do so far through 5 games. But I really think what he's referring to is more just hard football. I don't think the Panthers have played. The win yesterday was great, but the Panthers still are not really playing great football. The Panther offense played well in the fourth quarter, but what about quarters 1 through 3? I just think the Panthers special teams had probably their best game, but yet there was an extra point missed. We're still kind of playing B minus, B plus football, and I think Coach Rivera wants to see the A game.
Yeah. Well, I want to see you get through 2 more unscathed. And, of course, we, the Packers, we have the week off and then 1 more to go. And then pretty colossal game in Charlotte maybe on November 8th if everything holds to form.
That'd be great. But in the 10 seconds we have remaining, please give me the real reason. Tell me why Coach Spurrier stepped down.
I think he wanted to work on his golf game some. That's what I hear. I hear he's been on the links a little bit in the last few days since he got away from football. And
you're the only source I trust on this
life,
story,
my man. Yeah, well, you should. We are the place that you should be trusting. Thank you, Mick. We appreciate it very much. Mick Mixon, the voice of the Panthers. Panthers, great win in Seattle, coming from behind and doing it on the road in a very tough place to win. And they're having a great start. The Eagles up next for them next Sunday night. Be right back.
I've been prepared for this day my entire life to lead a great group of young men just like yourselves. And just like y'all been prepared to go out and play a damn flawless football game. Let nothing stand in your way today. Nothing. Nothing. You play with passion, energy, excitement. Prepared for this day my
One more little soundbite from Sean Elliott post-win on Saturday, and this was something that was distributed on the USC football official Twitter feed. This is something they wanted fans and recruits to see, the type of locker room that now exists at USC after a win. Roll it.
I've been prepared for this day my entire life to lead a great group of young men just like yourselves. And just like y'all been prepared to go out and play a damn flawless football game. Let nothing stand in your way today. Nothing. Nothing. You play with passion, energy, excitement. You play with one another. Yes, sir. You'll remember the rest of your life. The rest of your life. And I keep saying there's only so many times in your life you get to show your stuff. You get to show your stuff. Well, by God, today is the day we show our stuff. I'm proud. Our coaches are proud. Man, it is energetic, and I'm thrilled to be here. I would rather be no other place in the world than be with you right now in this situation. I challenge you, I challenge us to step to the plate and make this the time of our life. The time of our life. The time of our life.
And I had
Actually, that was
the time of my life.
Pre-game prior to the Gamecocks running out on the field. And, of course, Sean led them out of the tunnel carrying a Spurrier-type visor as an honor to Spurrier. And that's different. I mean, Spurrier, you go back and watch the Gamecocks, how they used to run out of the tunnel, and Spurrier would be to the side and would just come sort of trotting out. He wasn't one to be out in front of the team, leading them out in a full bull rush. Dabo was first one down the hill at Clemson and leading the team in full sprint mode to midfield, and I think Sean's going to be that way. So there are similarities, but again, there's more than one way to coach winning football. It worked for Spurrier his way. Maybe it'll work for Sean Elliott or whoever their way, but it is a different tact at South Carolina, and it has to do simply with a guy who's 30 years younger than his predecessor, full of hunger. That's one thing you can say about the guy who's running the ship now. He is hungry. He wants to be the head coach, and he's going to run the team in his image and with his energy and with his effort. And it's going to be different over the next 5 games at South Carolina, no doubt about it. Will that mean wins? I don't know. Probably not many, but I think the effort will be there, and I think they'll put up a fight every time out the rest of the way. I'll be surprised if they don't do that. All right, tomorrow night, Talking Tuesday, we will have Clemson covered for you tomorrow night, Dabo Sweeney, and may have something for you from South Carolina, working on a little something there. Can't say anything yet until it's confirmed, but we'll let you know tomorrow night. Thank you, K-Mac, Pro, State Man. Have a great night, everybody. We'll